Okay, so here's a question for you. Can you truly read someone's mind? I mean, really figure out what they're pondering without them saying a word?
Huh? It's the big question, isn't it? Something people have wondered about forever.
Totally. And today on the deep dive, we're actually diving right into that. We've got this really fascinating stack of sources here, including some great excerpts from mind reading, The Art of Observation.
Yeah, and these sources, they promise to sort of, well, unlock the secrets, but more like the techniques, how to understand that silent language of the mind.
Exactly. Our mission really is to unpack these crucial methods, give you, our listener, a kind of shortcut to genuinely perceiving what might be going on inside anyone's head.
And this isn't just about surface level stuff like guessing games. We're aiming to go deeper in this deep dive.
Right. Beyond just the what to look for.
Exactly. We want to explore the why. Why do these observations actually matter? What are the underlying principles? Because the core idea here, and our sources really hammer this home, is that the mind has its own language.
A language we can learn to perceive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
With the right guidance, the right approach, and a certain kind of mental presence, you can definitely learn to tune into it.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Our sources start us off with this really captivating Buddhist tale. It sort of lays the groundwork philosophically for understanding just how powerful observation can be.
Mm-hmm. It's a great story.
It's about a blind brother, right, who has this almost uncanny ability to read people even though he can't see.
That's the one. And it's not just a story. It really illustrates the essence of this kind of perceptive insight. This elder brother, despite, his physical blindness, he develops this astonishing knack for figuring out complex truths about people, about situations.
How does he do it, though, without sight?
Well, that's the key. He does it by keenly observing actions, reactions, and sometimes, really importantly, the absence of action. It just showcases this incredible power of indirect perception. He doesn't see like we do, but as the source puts it, he perceives through actions.
Perceives through actions. I like that.
Yeah. It's a fantastic demonstration of how our bodies are constantly, you know, broadcasting what our minds are thinking, often unconsciously.
Okay, so walk us through the first part. There's a king involved.
Right. So the king is out hunting, and he stumbles upon this blind brother just sitting in a field. A deer had just burst through a nearby fence, and the king's chasing it.
And he asks the blind brother if he saw it.
Exactly. And the brother, amazingly, just says, "Your Majesty, that animal you're chasing, it's not worth your time. You're wasting your effort."
Wow, bold thing to say to a king.
Right. And then he adds, "The animal you think is just a deer. It's actually a pregnant doe. And I've never heard of a king hunting a pregnant doe."
Okay, hold on. How on earth? The king must have been floored.
Completely astonished. I mean, how could a blind man know that? Such a specific detail. So naturally, the king sends his commander to check it out. And sure enough, the commander comes back and confirms it. The blind brother was absolutely right. It was a pregnant doe.
Okay, so that's the core question, isn't it? How did he know? He couldn't see it with his eyes.
It's fascinating, right? It really shows the power of inferring from non-visual cues. The blind brother explains it himself. He says because he perceives through actions, he figured it out from how the animal ran.
How it ran.
Yeah, and specifically how it broke the fence. Think about it. A pregnant doe is heavier, maybe a bit less agile.
Ah, so it would move differently, break the fence differently.
Precisely, maybe with more force, less grace, you could say, than a non-pregnant deer.
Mm.
He didn't see the doe itself, but he observed its actions. The sound, the way the fence broke, the subtle vibrations maybe, and the impact of those actions, that revealed its physical state.
Wow. Reading the subtle language of movement and impact. That's incredible.
It really is. Perceiving the invisible through its effects.
So the king, obviously amazed by this, then gives him an even tougher, more personal challenge, right, about the queen.
Yes, he asked the blind brother to figure out if his wife, the queen, is faithful. High stakes there.
Definitely. And the blind brother asks for something pretty unusual, doesn't he?
He does. He asked to be left alone with the queen in a room. And he states his intention, his desire, is to touch her.
Okay, that sounds provocative.
It is, but it's not about intimacy in the usual sense. It seems like a deliberate setup. A test, really. He's creating a situation to observe her reaction under pressure.
Right, and this is where it gets really wild, isn't it? Her reaction.
Oh, absolutely. The queen, when she hears this request, she completely loses it, just becomes furious, starts beating the blind brother, hands, feet, everything just goes all out.
Yikes. So he escapes somehow.
Yeah, he manages to get away, goes straight back to the king, and just declares, "Your Majesty, your wife is unfaithful."
And the king believes him.
Well, he confronts the queen, apparently quite enraged. And she eventually confesses, saying something like, "You might as well kill me, but no, I am not faithful."
Wow. So the crucial part is how her reaction revealed the truth. Why did beating him up signal infidelity?
The blind brother's reasoning is incredibly sharp here. It cuts right to the core of human behavior. He explains, look, when I told her I wanted to touch her, what could a truly faithful woman have done?
Refused. Calmly, maybe angrily, but just said no.
Exactly. She could have simply refused, perhaps indignantly, confidently. But instead, she chose rage. She chose violence. And importantly, in the act of beating him, she ended up, as he puts it, touching my entire body.
Ah, so the nature of the contact, born from rage.
Precisely. He concludes, how can such a woman be faithful? Her violent overreaction, the specific way she engaged physically instead of just refusing calmly, that was the tell. It wasn't just what she did, but the sheer intensity and the character of her actions.
It showed she had something to hide, maybe. Reacting defensively.
That's the interpretation. Reacting like someone desperate to shut down an uncomfortable inquiry rather than someone secure in their innocence. A powerful lesson in how extreme reactions often reveal more than words ever could.
Absolutely. So the king, totally convinced now, asks one final, deeply personal question.
The deepest one yet. He asks, am I truly my father's son, or am I someone else's?
And the blind brother's answer.
He tells the king, yes, you are indeed your father's son. But, and this is the kicker, you are also under the shadow of a miserly merchant.
Under the shadow of a miserly merchant. What does that even mean? Did the king understand?
Apparently he did. The source says the king rushed to his mother and confirmed it. There was some connection, some influence from a stingy merchant in his upbringing or lineage.
Astonishing deduction again. But how? How did the blind brother figure that out? It seems so specific to the king's character.
And that's exactly it. It was about the king's character, revealed through his actions, or rather, his inaction. The blind brother's observation was simple, yet profound.
What was it?
He points out that despite answering all these incredibly difficult and personal questions correctly for the king, questions that brought immense value or relief,
Yeah.
he hadn't received a single penny in reward from the king. Not a thing.
Ah, the lack of generosity.
Exactly. This inaction, this complete absence of the expected gratitude and reward in that situation, that was the silent signal. It pointed directly to the king's inherent stinginess,
Yeah.
his miserly nature.
So the king's behavior, or lack of it, spoke volumes about this hidden aspect of his character.
Perfectly put. It revealed a deep-seated personality trait, this shadow of a miserly merchant.
Okay, so pulling it all together from this amazing story, what are the big lessons for us? For anyone listening who wants to get better at, understanding people.
Well, the core lesson is that this ability, like the blind brothers, comes from really observing the subtle language of a person's body and their actions.
Not just the obvious stuff.
Not at all. And sometimes, like he did with the queen, it might even involve creating a situation or assigning a task just to see how they react or how they don't react. You're looking for those deviations, those subconscious tells.
But there's a catch, right? Something we need to do first.
Yes, and this is crucial, something he emphasizes. To truly learn this, we have to calm your mind and bring your mind into the present.
Be present.
Completely. You need to be able to genuinely observe what the other person is thinking or feeling right now, in this moment. If your own mind is racing, worrying about the past, planning the future,
You'll miss the signals.
you'll miss everything. You just won't be receptive to those subtle, fleeting cues. It's really about being fully present, fully attuned to that whole rich tapestry of nonverbal communication happening right in front of you.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. You need a clear mind to perceive clearly. So building on that foundation, that need for presence and keen observation, our sources then lay out three pretty practical techniques, things you can actually start using.
Exactly. These aren't magic tricks, they're methods. And when you combine these methods with that focused present mind we were just talking about,
You get deeper insights.
incredibly deep insights, potentially, into what's really happening in someone's inner world. It's all about being fully tuned in, ready to receive the information they're often transmitting silently, maybe without even realizing it themselves.
All right, let's get practical then. Technique number 1, observing the eyes. Everyone says the eyes are the windows to the soul, right?
They do, and for good reason. Our sources definitely highlight the eyes as maybe the most important element to watch. They say a lot, even when the person doesn't.
So what specifically should we be looking for beyond just, making eye contact?
Okay, several things. First, pay attention to their gaze and direction. Are their eyes darting around while you're talking, kind of flitting from place to place, never really settling?
Yeah. What might that mean?
It often indicates discomfort, maybe anxiety, like they're looking for an escape from the conversation. It can also sometimes suggest they might be uh, fabricating something, struggling to keep a story straight, fearing exposure. That lack of steady focus is a pretty significant tell.
Okay. And the opposite. Direct, steady eye contact.
Generally, that suggests honesty, confidence, and genuine interest. They're engaged, they want to connect, they're comfortable with the exchange. It signals cognitive ease.
Makes sense. What else about the eyes? Smaller details.
Definitely. Look at the eyebrows. If the eyebrows go down, maybe with a little frown, or if they look away while doing that,
Yeah.
that can mean they're deep in thought, processing something complex, or maybe worried. But if the eyebrows shoot up and the eyes widen,
Surprise. Curiosity.
exactly, genuine surprise, curiosity, maybe an aha moment. These are often really quick, these micro expressions, but they reveal immediate emotional shifts.
Okay. Eyebrows. What about the pupils? The black part.
Ah, yes. Pupils are fascinating because their size changes involuntarily. Generally, larger pupils can suggest positive emotional arousal, things like liking someone, excitement, happiness.
Like an attraction response, almost.
Kind of, yeah. It's often tied to interest and engagement. Conversely, smaller pupils or constricted pupils can indicate dislike, discomfort, negativity, maybe even anger.
Wow. Okay. And the white part, the sclera.
Right, the sclera. Its color can tell you something too,
Yeah.
if it's noticeably red or bloodshot.
Tired, stressed, sick.
Precisely. Tiredness, stress, maybe illness. Now, this isn't direct mind reading, obviously, but it's a crucial bit of context. It suggests they might not be in the best state to engage deeply. Their openness might be limited just because they're feeling strained internally.
That's a good point, reading the context. I remember that anecdote from the source about the tired traveler.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the blind brother noticed his eyes were constantly shifting, never settling, and that immediately told him the guy wasn't just worried, but also really wanted to get away fast.
And that made him suspicious.
Exactly. It made him suspect the traveler had a secret plan, which it turned out he did. It was that involuntary shifting gaze that gave him away.
That's a perfect example. Shows how much the eyes reveal when you know what to look for,
Yeah.
especially those subconscious signals.
Okay, so that's the eyes. Powerful stuff. Let's move to technique number 2, understanding facial expressions. The source says the face is like a picture that shows what people are feeling inside, even if they're totally silent.
It really is. The face is this incredible canvas of emotional cues, often shown through tiny muscle movements we don't consciously control. Take the mouth, for example.
Okay. What about the mouth?
Well, downturned corners.
Yeah.
Pretty classic sign of unhappiness, displeasure, maybe a sense of loss or disappointment.
Right. And a smile. Is a smile always genuine?
Good question. Not always. A genuine smile, often called a Duchenne smile, isn't just the mouth. It involves the muscles around the eyes, the orbicularis oculi.
Causes crinkles. Crow's feet.
Exactly. Makes the eyes look a bit small and shiny, as the source puts it. That signifies real happiness, warmth, kindness. A smile that's only the mouth, often just social politeness. It doesn't have that same warmth.
Good distinction. What about a closed mouth? Like tightly closed?
Right. A mouth that's closed and maybe squeezed tight, that can suggest disagreement, dislike, or just an unwillingness to talk, like they're literally holding back words or feeling resistant inside.
And an open, relaxed mouth.
That usually signals the opposite. Openness, comfort, a readiness to communicate freely without holding back.
Okay. Eyes, mouth. What other parts of the face are key?
The area between the eyebrows is surprisingly revealing.
The furrowed brow spot.
Precisely. If you see the skin there, deepening, tightening, those vertical lines appearing, it often means confusion, intense thought, maybe internal conflict, or they're really concentrating, trying hard to understand something difficult.
Like mental effort showing physically.
Exactly. It's often the corrugator supercilii muscle working there. As you get better at spotting these subtle shifts, you start getting a clearer picture of their internal state, whether they say it or not.
There was another good anecdote for this one, too, about a sad person who tried to hide it.
Oh yeah, tell us.
Well, this person came for help but acted all indifferent, trying to put on a brave face. But the blind brother noticed just a small line on their forehead, that subtle furrow between the brows.
Oh, the telly.
Right. It immediately showed him they were actually deeply troubled, hiding a problem. So he gently asked about it, and the person opened up and felt better. Just shows how even tiny unconscious cues can be so important.
Absolutely. It's all about catching those fleeting, involuntary signals that bypass the conscious mask people often wear.
Which leads us perfectly into the final technique, number 3, interpreting body language. Gestures, posture, the whole package.
hmm Our bodies really do speak volumes, often completely without us realizing it. It's like this secret, unconscious way of communicating desires, feelings, intentions.
And it's powerful because it's less consciously controlled.
Often, yes.
Yeah.
It can be harder to fake or control your body language consistently compared to, say, forcing a smile. Think about something simple like finger tapping.
Okay. Tapping fingers on a table.
Yeah, especially tapping fast. What does that usually suggest?
Boredom, impatience, wanting to leave.
Exactly. Boredom, impatience, anxiety, maybe just restless energy. It could be a signal they want the conversation to end. Remember the story of the nervous seller?
Vaguely. Remind me.
The blind brother was negotiating with the seller who was rapidly tapping his fingers the whole time. That little involuntary action clued the brother into the seller's nervousness and eagerness to just make the sale quickly.
Ah, giving him leverage.
Precisely. It allowed the blind brother to negotiate a much better price because the seller's body language betrayed his urgency.
Brilliant. Okay, what other big body language cues? Crossed arms?
Classic one. Crossed arms often act like a psychological and physical barrier.
Blocking you out.
In a way, yeah. It typically indicates dislike, disagreement, feeling defensive, or just a general desire to close off, maybe hide their thoughts and feelings. It creates a kind of wall.
So if you see that, what should you do?
The advice is usually to be, extra nice, careful, maybe try to build more rapport, make them feel more comfortable and open before pushing a difficult topic. Read the signal and adjust.
Okay. And the opposite of crossed arms, leaning in.
Right. Leaning forward towards the speaker. That's generally a very positive sign. It signals active interest, careful listening, a desire to learn more, to understand better.
It's not just being polite.
Usually it's more than that. It's often a physical manifestation of mental engagement. The source mentions a smart teacher example, someone calm, but who consistently leaned in, showing deep, genuine interest in what was being said.
Got it. Any other small gestures to watch for?
One interesting one is touching the face frequently.
Like rubbing the chin, touching the nose.
Yeah, those kinds of things. It can sometimes indicate deception, but more often it suggests worry, deep cognitive processing, like they're really thinking hard, or maybe they're wrestling with a big idea, something consuming their thoughts.
So it's like a self-soothing thing or a focus thing?
It can be both. These small, often repetitive touches can reveal that intense activity going on inside in their mind or their heart.
Okay, so wrapping up these techniques, the overall message for the listener seems to be about patience, right? And really watching.
Absolutely. Patience, careful, holistic observation, looking at the eyes, face, and body together, and really learning to appreciate the nuances, the things people don't explicitly say. So thinking about all this, what stands out most to you from these techniques? Any particular detail that seems especially revealing?
Maybe the micro-expressions, those really fast flashes of emotion, and the link between physical actions and internal states like the finger tapping revealing anxiety. It makes you realize how much information is constantly flowing if you just tune in.
Exactly. And as we bring this deep dive toward its end, it's crucial to remember that powerful synergy. It's the combination of observing the eyes, the facial expressions, the body language, and doing it all with that focused present mind we talked about earlier.
That's the key ingredient.
It really is. Our sources suggest this is precisely how, figures like great saints and enlightened beings are sometimes described as being able to read others. It's not necessarily some mystical power.
Which is heightened awareness.
Exactly. It's often attributed to their minds being incredibly focused and peaceful. That calm, present state allows them to perceive and understand these subtle, involuntary cues, the ones most of us miss in our daily rush, almost effortlessly. They're simply present to what is.
Which leaves us with a really interesting thought to end on, something for you, the listener, to maybe mull over.
Go for it.
How might cultivating this kind of presence, this keen observation, not just of others, but maybe even within yourself, how might that actually transform your own interactions?
Beyond just trying to read minds.
Right. How could this heightened awareness maybe enhance your empathy? Could it lead to deeper, more meaningful connections? Could it potentially help you navigate your everyday life with, I don't know, a new depth of understanding and ultimately maybe richer human connections?